Pleased to welcome now into the studio a long-time friend of the Business Breakfast, Christopher Hewett, Senior Consultant at TRI Consulting, formerly known as TRI Hospitality Consulting. Very good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning.
Talk us through the rebranding, if you like, from TRI Hospitality Consulting away from the hospitality tag. Does this mean you're moving away from specialising in hospitality consulting?
Well, what we've done is sort of TRI is approaching its 20th anniversary in the region this year, and we've always had a very strong grip on hospitality. That's where our services have always been lined. But in recent years, we've kind of expanded out of that, and we're doing a lot of advisory work on larger real estate projects, as well as looking at tourism master plans, etc. So we thought it was a great opportunity to sort of coincide with the anniversaries to rebrand. So we've got a new corporate logo, we've got a new website that we've launched, and we thought we'll drop the hospitality and sort of diversify our services to what we really are doing, and move away from that core hospitality and look at wider avenues, which we're doing. And
you've also got a new beard as well, which I presume is part of the rebranding process. Is it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Matching Richards at the moment.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the markets, because that's what you do. You look at hotel markets, really. And for December, you've looked at the Dubai hotel market, the Abu Dhabi hotel market, as well as others. But let's start with our own two local cities first. Abu Dhabi actually had a higher occupancy figure in December, 83.1 compared to 82.2% in Dubai, but vastly inferior dollar returns. In most cases, only half of that of Dubai. How do you interpret that?
Well, Abu Dhabi's had a number of challenges in the last 2 to 3 years where there was such a huge increase in hotel room supply, and what that really did is resulted in a rate war where there's such an imbalance between supply and demand at hotels. In order to get people in the door, they had to drop rates, and that's been ongoing for a couple of years. But now what we're seeing in Abu Dhabi is that the rates have bottomed out. We saw in 2014 rates were marginally higher than what they were in 2013, and that was on the back of increased demand. Abu Dhabi tourism has been very good at bringing in new passengers. Abu Dhabi International Airport has recorded a significant increase in passenger numbers in 2014. I think it's up 20% on 2013.
The Etihad figures
for the airport.
The Etihad has just reported its figures for 2014 up hugely as well. But I guess if you're going to bring these people in, and if it just put these into comparison, average room rate in Dubai $375, RevPAR $308, TrevPAR, total RevPAR $573, and the figures for Abu Dhabi read 170, 141 and 301, so significantly below. I mean, there has to be a tipping point. I mean, if you keep bringing people in, and there are new hotels coming online all the time, they're looking at this sort of level for the foreseeable future.
Well, I think it's going to increase. We're projecting that the average rates are going to grow in Abu Dhabi this year. We're looking at probably 3 to 5% increase in average rates. Occupancy, we think, is going to grow marginally, but still maintain the strong levels. And we're really just going to see average rates start rebounding and growing again after the last couple of years where they really have fallen. And they have reached that bottom point where the rates were just low to a point where hotels were looking at trying to change their strategy. And once the demand came in and they were getting bumps in beds, they decided that they had the opportunity to increase rates, and we're starting to see that.
So to pick up on Malcolm's point about the average room rate in Dubai, I mean, it's huge, $375. I mean, double Abu Dhabi, one of the highest in the world. Can Dubai sustain that, do you think, in 2015 with an increase in hotel supply, just as Russian tourists in particular feel the pinch, let alone the impact of the oil price drop on regional tourism?
Well, we think the average rate's probably going to drop this year by about 3 to 5%, and that's on the back of slightly decreased occupancy levels, which is a result of lower Russian demand coming through, which is one of the top source markets into Dubai, as well as other factors affecting the macro market. We're expecting about almost 5,000 hotel rooms to enter the market this year. If you want to look a little bit more long term and look at what is going to happen up until the end of 2016, they're projecting upwards of 20,000 additional rooms coming into the market. There's about 65,000 rooms in the market as we speak. So I think there is going to be a point where the supply coming onto the market is really just starting to start cooling it off. And looking at that new supply, a lot of that is within the 3 and 4 star market. So you're going to start seeing more affordable accommodation coming into the market, and as a result, a number of hotels in the 4 and 5 star market are going to have to drop rates to maintain their occupancy levels.
Well, we often talk about average room rate and RevPAR. Those are the ones we quite often talk about. But you've included in these figures TrevPAR as well, total revenue per room. Is that a new calculation?
Well, it's a calculation that we look at because it really does look at what is the overall revenue that's coming
holistic,
into the
isn't
hotel.
it?
That's right. So you take into consideration the food and beverage revenues, the conference and banqueting revenues, as well as the other operating departments and the additional revenue that comes through.
And I noticed up in Doha, for instance, the hotels there have been showing double-digit growth in total revenue per room. What's been driving that figure there?
Again, it's a very similar situation to what's happened in Abu Dhabi. Doha had a big influx of supply, rates dropped, occupancies dropped, but now you're seeing a real catalyst for demand coming through from the new airport. Qatar Airways are expanding, so airlift is a really key factor when it comes to driving tourism. Abu Dhabi's seen a huge increase in airlift through Etihad and the airport. Qatar is seeing exactly the same. So what you're seeing is now that demand levels are coming up, hotels can yield more effectively, increase their room rates, and you're seeing RevPARs go up as a result.
What type of hotels are we going to see being developed then? Because you're a consultant, and as you say, you advise on these projects, hospitality projects, leisure projects. Let me give you an example. Last week we had on the show Ernie Els and Mike Scully talking about their new hotel concept, which is for family hotels, particularly targeting the 0 to 5 age group kids. And the point that Mike Scully made was there's really only 2 hotels in Dubai that have got a really good, compelling offering for families. The Atlantis with the water park and the Jumeirah Beach Hotel and that complex with Wild Ride. He said everything else is just accommodation. Nice accommodation, but just accommodation. And they think it has to be the future, the differentiation is hotels with much more than just accommodation. That was their take on it. It seems to make sense. What's your take on it?
Well, I think there is an opportunity for that. If you look at large mixed-use developments and large developments coming online, we've got Maras have got the big theme parks going down in Jebel Ali, and they're going to have hotels that are looking at catering to families. And family tourism is one of the 3 segments that the DTCM are really focusing on to drive tourism up until 2020. So I think there is opportunity for really focusing on families and having a really good offering that the families can be catered to, kids can be looked after, adults can go to their own pools, and I think there is a compelling argument for that. But it really does come back to where it's located, what are your offerings that you're going to have in there, and where your demand is going to be coming from. So all these factors need to be taken into consideration, but I think there is an opportunity for that.
Well, we certainly feel that the 2 months' salary being offered to Saudi employees in Saudi Arabia by the new King Salman will help them spend a bit of that travelling around the
Absolutely.
Gulf. Now, let's have a look at one of the other cities you've been looking at. You've been looking at the Lebanese market, which has also been in the news again over the last 2 months because of border skirmishes. What's the hotel news from Beirut?
Well, Beirut hotels are, they face a real a challenging market because demand can fluctuate in a heartbeat. They have hotels could have 70% occupancy one day. There could be a challenge and it drops down to 30%.
Must be really hard to get investment going into the hotel market.
Well, it is, and because you don't have that consistency of profits and consistency of demand, it's really hard to make a business case for it, and especially having a location that is challenged by regional issues on your doorstep. But looking at the year-end figures, the hotel's actually been all right. You saw profit margins increase about 4.5% in 2014 on 2013, and occupancy levels in the back end of the year were a lot more stable and solid than what they were before that.
Does that Beirut case of it's hard to make a business case for investment into the hotel sector simply because of the up and down nature of it, does that apply to Bahrain as well, where there have also been well publicised clashes?
I think Bahrain's a different situation. If you look at Lebanon, it's more external factors coming in and affecting the market, whereas in Bahrain it's more internal issues. What we've seen in Bahrain is that the hotel market has actually reached to a point where it's more stabilised now. You're seeing a lot more leisure demand, so Saudi demand really does drive hotel demand in Bahrain, and you also do have that secondary market coming through the corporate. However, within Bahrain, they have had challenges in the past where, due to the unrest, a lot of corporate and financial institutions relocated to Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Doha because of the instability that was there.
Chris Hewett is a senior consultant at TRI Consulting. Chris, it's always good talking.